Welcome to Turtle Talk. This is Morgan's story and the family's journey. I'm Craig, and
Hi, Michelle. Welcome.
yes, welcome back. And last time we were talking about a lot of stuff with Deacon Jack, and in the episode before that, we were even talking about frustrations with admin, charge nurse. Let's talk about Morgan, goals,
Goals.
and other things.
Right. So, uh, in Morgan's world, everything revolves around the therapist setting goals and then trying to help Morgan reach these goals. So each speech, OT, PT, they all set these goals. And so speech therapy had set a goal of let's convince Morgan to open and shut her mouth on command. So things on command are like really good goals to have because it shows that there's cognition. Okay.
Right.
And so the one goal she had for the 1 week was, to open her mouth 5 or 6 times on command. So the speech therapist would be like, okay, Morgan, you got to open your mouth. Can you open your mouth for me? Ah. And Morgan would just kind of sit there and look at her and, give her this slightly messed up look. Because remind you, we're still not huge on facial expressions or animations and stuff, but you could tell that she's responding, but to what level? And so Morgan would just look at her and she'd like, come on, Morgan, can you open your mouth? So I said, well, let's bribe her a little bit. So the therapist says, Morgan, can you open your mouth for a piece of cake? Ah, right? So
Like that fast.
it was pretty darn quick.
Yeah.
So the goal was to get her, and so we give her a little bite of cake, and Morgan would get this tiny little smirk on her face, so she knew she won, right? And I could read this because this is now, mind you, we're going back through baby phases here,
Yeah.
right? So how she was as a baby is how she's going to be again. It doesn't change, right?
Still the same person.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So by the time this week is done, the goal was 5 to 6 times for this week to open her mouth on command. And she's doing 12 to 15 times just by being bribed with cake. So, cake was a good thing.
You did say she was food motivated.
She was food motivated. She still is.
Yeah.
So I tell people, pick what their passion is and, motivate them with it. They had this room there called the Snoozlin room, and it was a room that had like rope lights hanging down. It had like this big tall bubble tube in it. It had this like electric globe that if you touched it, your hair would kind of stick up and stuff. You remember that from science class, right?
Yep.
So Morgan would get to go down to this room kind of as a change of pace from, come on, Morgan, meet these goals, meet these goals. So we get to go down there kind of as a fun day. And she'd use her switch to turn the bubble tube on. And she loved the bubble tube because it would change colors. And, you dim the lights way down so it's relaxing, but it's stimulating at the same time. Or we'd put these big rope lights, you grab them together and put them on Morgan's chest, and she could touch them with her hands and stuff and different textures. And she'd put her hand over on this electric ball, and her hair would stick up a little, which is funny because her like senior year of high school, all the kids, Tom happened to be teaching there that year, and all the kids were scared to touch her hand. So Morgan comes up and puts both hands on the ball, and her hair sticks up everywhere, right? So we have a picture of this in high school. So of course she knows what this ball is. So, I'm like, Morgan, do you remember this ball from high school? Your hair sticking up. And she'd move her arm over and touch it, and some hair would stick up. So now we're knowing that there's some memory things here.
Oh man, that's awesome.
It is. It was really awesome. So, these are big things that we're building on and stuff. And, we've been here for a month and a half, and, we're slowly seeing, Morgan emerging from this like somewhat vegetative state. It's like a blank space, but the glow is coming back and the twinkle's coming back and things are starting to work. And So after church, I'd sit and visit with all these, friends and stuff from there. And they asked about Morgan's accident, and we had to be cautious. So I started telling the story, and I'm telling the story, and Morgan is visibly getting very upset. But she's to my side, so I'm looking at all the ladies and telling them Morgan the story of, here's what we know to have happened and things like that. And all of a sudden one of the ladies stops me because Morgan was like, and her face is red and she's making noises and she's trying to move in her chair, and she was so distraught by me telling the story that we had to stop. I had to stop because it was some sort of memory to her. What the memory was, we don't know, but it really, really upset her. So we would reassure her, even back to the trauma hospital. Tom especially was really good at this, reassuring her that she was safe and she was loved and no one was going to hurt her. So that became the thing that we just told her whenever she'd get upset is, she was safe, she was loved, you are protected, we're not going to let anyone hurt you, baby. That situation can't hurt you ever again, and it was, it's a tough story. I don't know, did I tell you the story?
I didn't know that.
No, the accident. Did I
Oh
tell
yeah,
you
yep. Well,
what happened?
We've talked to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
It, so it's tough. And
It's especially, the trauma. I'm sure she's got trauma.
I'm sure she does. I have to believe though that, your body has a way of protecting itself. And part of the time I wonder if her not speaking is because that part of her brain of remembering the accident has just shut down.
Right.
Shielding
Shielding itself.
and protecting herself. So I do pray a lot that she may remember some of it, but I hope and pray she doesn't remember all of it, and that enough time has gone by. But even now, she doesn't get upset when I talk about it with different people and tell her story because she knows she's safe, but that was really, that was quite a pivotal moment right there of, okay, she knows what's going on. She's understanding what we're saying. So the recognition was pretty amazing. So then we were able to tell the therapist that, and her sweet little occupational therapist, man, she worked her ever living tail off to build strength with Morgan. Can she sit for 5 seconds? It was like every time a therapist would say what the goal is, Morgan would work so much harder to beat whatever they said.
Good.
And she worked really, really hard. Physical therapy did things like strengthening the big leg muscles. They get her on this thing called the Moveo, and they would want her to activate like a squat. It's a tilt bed, and the back of it slides up and down, and you rest your feet on this board. So they'd bend her knees, and then she'd have to push to straighten her legs, and then she'd have to bend it down again. And, they'd have to help her, but they could feel, when she was trying to activate the muscles. And it really impressed me that, these therapists are that in tune with muscle activation. And, it's taken me a long time to really understand and feel when she's activating, which is pretty cool. But they do that. They get her on a bicycle and get her legs moving on that. They would get her in a standing frame. It's like a chair that goes from sit to stand, and she would just stand. But, her feet were so messed up that there's all this padding going on. So she's basically standing like on the sides of her feet and stuff. And I look back now and I'm very angry at myself, but I didn't know. But I did
That's
not
what
know.
was recommended.
It was what was recommended. But
So you can't beat yourself up.
but not all, hindsight's 2020. Always.
Always. Yep.
You know. But, she really was doing well at meeting her goals or getting close to her goals. But it seemed like we're watching this and the therapists are excited that, hey, Morgan's doing this and doing this and doing this. So it was always like just such a stress for us every time the insurance issue came up that, well, she's probably going to have to go next week or, one more week or 2 more weeks.
Why would they even say that, Prep?
It was weekly though. This was every week. And so it got to the point where I was going crazy. Tom's going crazy. We're calling the insurance. The insurance is like, we don't know what they're talking about because we authorize 30 days at a time, And so it's like, then why the heck are we going week by week at this facility when insurance is saying 30 days at a time? So it was just, I just felt like everybody was a liar. They might not have been, but it was just like, and I'm like, but we hear the therapist saying this, and this. She's doing good. She's making forward progression. As long as she's making forward progression, she gets to stay. She's meeting her goals. So why is this little insurance lady coming around saying, oh, next week is a little hit or miss. We're not sure.
Holy shit.
Holy shit is right. That stress was so real. And there were so many times when they'd say, okay, well, we're going to have to plan for discharge next week. What? So hence my friend Elizabeth, who I just sit there and I'm like, they're discharging her next week. What do I do? Like, why are they discharging her? She's doing everything. Insurance says she's still good. Why is this even happening? Like, to live in that constant fear every week of, are they kicking us out this week? Come on, Morgan, you gotta meet all these goals. You have to meet these goals to stay.
That's a horrible way to pressure.
That weight on both of us was devastating. I'm thankful for the therapist who still continued to work so hard with her. But once again, my turmoil always was with the administration.
Mm-hmm.
For them, it's all about the money. It's them Benjamins, We know what her insurance was paying. We know how much they were paying, and we know when she was approved. I was on the phone. The attorneys were on the phone with the insurance all the time. There was not a point in time when I didn't know what was going on. So when they come to me and say, hey, we're going to discharge next week because she's not approved, I'm like, that can't be. But we're at the mercy of them and nobody else. And so it's like we just got here and you're already talking about discharging. Then we had to have a discharge planning meeting, and is your home ADA accessible? And can we safely let her go home to you? And it's like, it's October. Like, we're just in our 3rd month. What is going on here?
Right.
So it was horrible because Morgan is working her full head off, trying to touch switches, trying to do everything they're asking of her, fighting through this brain injury. I'm in tears. I don't dare cry in front of her because we don't know what she understands or don't understand, and I don't want to make her feel bad.
Right.
So at night when she go to bed and I go back to the house and I just bawl. I'd bawl all the way from the rehab center to the house and through my shower, and I'd lay in bed and I'd cry myself to sleep. And this happened a lot. And there's just, you know, I guess in my frustration of all of this and going through all of this, our healthcare and the greed is horrendous in this country with the healthcare. We pay insurance premiums and we pay and we pay and we pay. And then we have to fight like hell just to get her to be able to transfer to a rehab center.
Mm-hmm.
And then the insurance says, okay, well, we got her there. She's approved for 30 days. But then we have the facility saying 1 week, 1 week, 1 week. Let's talk about discharge. We need you to draw a map of your home so we can see if it's safe for her to go home. Well, what the hell are you going to do with her?
Right.
Keep her? Is that what your goal is?
Take her away from you.
Remember that thought.
Yeah. Well, that's scary.
There's a lot of scary going on. And we couldn't talk to anybody. And when we tell people, like even up to this point, Craig, our story is pretty unbelievable. Like I have people coming up and giving me hugs saying, I can't believe you guys have been through that. I can't believe that's how that doctor was. I can't believe that's how that nurse was. Yeah, we can't believe it, and we've lived it.
Right. I don't know how many times I've said that through this series.
Yeah, it just,
holy shit.
And here we are, and all we want to do is help her heal and give her what she needs, right?
Yeah.
And so this insurance thing is just always looming, and so it's multiple phone calls with our attorneys, and I remember calling the attorney one time and saying, now they're kicking us out and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm like, you're her damn lawyer, fix it, And it's just, we always felt like a caged rat and somebody was shaking the cage.
Yeah.
And there was nowhere to go. No help, nowhere to go. I mean, we were it. We were her advocate. So I really feel horrible for people who don't have strong advocates,
Like our mutual friend.
Yeah, I have reached out to help people and, we were all raised to trust your doctors. They're the experts. You trust the lawyers. They're the experts. You trust your clergy because they're the experts. But you know what? This isn't the same world that our parents and grandparents grew up in because they don't know everything. Now it's, we got companies dictating somebody's health care. One of the things that Morgan needed recently got denied. And so I called the insurance and I said, why is that denied? Well, we don't think it's necessary. And I said, well, can I ask what your degree is in? And she's like, well, I don't have a degree. I'm whatever. On the phone, she did like the approvals and denials. And I said, okay, are you a nurse? No. Are you a doctor? No. And I said, then please tell me how someone sitting behind a desk with zero medical experience and zero background in traumatic brain injury can say that when a doctor and the therapist say this piece of equipment is medically necessary for my daughter's care, you can deny it.
Fair question.
Please tell me how this can happen. But it happens all the time. All the time. Like our insurance fight is just beginning.
Well,
like it's pretty smooth right now. We had to fight to get her to the rehab center.
Yep.
We get her there and they're approving 30 days. So now it's the rehab center saying, oh no, insurance is saying this. So you're getting two conflicting stories. So you don't believe anybody.
Right.
Like I don't believe anybody. Unless that stuff is in writing, I don't believe you. So now I'm demanding that they put it in writing, demanding they put it in writing. So now you have something usable, right?
Right.
But once again, here's Morgan meeting all her goals,
Right.
or coming darn close to meeting her goals. She's showing enough progress that the insurance company says, hey, she's still making progress. The doctor says she can stay. She can stay.
Yeah.
I ate more antacids
I bet.
at that time there than I think I have my entire life, because my stomach was in turmoil the entire time we were there. And that's not how any healthcare should be for anybody.
Because you want to focus all your energy.
My
on
energy needed to
Morgan.
be on Morgan.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to focus on Morgan during therapies, but then outside of therapies, it's a flurry of phone calls with insurance. It's a flurry of phone calls with the lawyers. It's a flurry of phone calls with everything under the sun, when all I want to do is sit next to my daughter and have a good time and cuddle with her and talk to her, tell her stories, play her favorite music, and do things to help her grow in her recovery, not have her sit there and listen to all the BS that's going on because of her accident. Like, talk about making the patient feel like crap.
Right.
But I can't leave her alone either.
No, because of reasons.
So, you know, that seriously was, you know, but like I said, I really appreciate, you know, the therapists that work so diligently with her, you know, meeting goals and getting her up and going, and the therapy assistants. I tell you what, there were some of them that were so funny, and they just treated Morgan like she was normal. Come on, girlfriend, let's do stuff. And I mean, they really were great.
It's good.
Like, the recovery team was great. You know, unfortunately though, I think, like I said, administration, you know, the way higher ups in the therapy world, who, you know, maybe are directors, who maybe have kind of forgot about the bigger picture, you know, who have fallen into that textbook practice. That's what we call it, the textbook practice, where the textbook says, therefore it is, you know.
And real life is different.
And real life is way different. And that textbook practice has kind of been the thorn in my side through all of this. Because, of course, no matter what condition, if any, your child has, you're going to read about it, study about it, try and learn about it, see what you can do, what's the best way I as a parent can help them. So I've learned a lot. Tom knows way more than I do about the therapy world. He's super smart on all of that stuff. So I have medication questions, I have treatment questions. I give it to him. He's got the science degrees and stuff. I say, honey, I need you to look this up and tell me what to do. And we as a team, we work great. We're a pretty well-oiled machine when it comes to all our kids and what their needs are. So, but yeah.
It's
policies and insurance. Yep. They have been the disaster through all of this. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys, so keep the comments and the questions coming for us.
Yes. Love the questions. Please subscribe. Go to www.givemorgan.org or visit me at my real estate website, realtorcraigbertrand.com. And we always want your questions, comments, like, and share wherever you listen or watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.